Hi, I'm Dan and welcome to the Airbrush Garage. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys some paint from Createx. We're going to be going over the illustration colors and the Candy2os along with the Wicked colors. Now, I'm not sponsored by Createx in any way, but I just want to share with you guys the paint that I've been using throughout my whole airbrushing career and over the past 20 years. I really love this paint. I know there's a lot of other paints out there that a lot of people use, but I get this question a lot, about what paints you use, why, what's a good paint. So I'm here to share with you my experience of Createx. So I hope I do it justice. And with that, if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell so you get future notifications. Give me a couple comments, good or bad. It really helps out with the channel. Don't forget to check out all my Amazon affiliate links for all the products in this video and my other videos down below. With that, let's get started. Well, all right, I'm gonna be going over some Createx paint with you guys today. I'm not sponsored by any way, shape, or form by Createx. I know it might look like I am, but I'm not. I'm just a really big fan. I've been using this paint for over 20 years. It's my go-to paint. It's the only paint that I use. It's what I started with. It's what I'm gonna finish with. It's really great paint. Now, I know there's other paints out there, and that's great. Pick what you like. But I get a lot of questions on the channel asking about paint and what's a good paint to do certain projects. So I'm just gonna share with you my experience with the Createx paint. And I just happened to get some new sets of Createx paint here. One's gonna be the illustration colors. Got the Candy2o set here. I didn't get a new set of the Wicked colors because I have plenty of those Wicked colors. So we're gonna start with the illustration colors today. So the illustration colors are exactly almost what it says. It's for illustrators, portraits, where you want to use eraser techniques, scratch techniques. This paint allows up to 48 hours dry time to be able to come back, the next day and do soft erase techniques, some scratching techniques. Now, scratching techniques I think can be done almost at any time. I mean, let's face it, it's a sharp blade. So whether I'm using the Wicked colors or the illustration colors, you can almost come back and scratch all the time. But to do some soft erasing techniques, this is the go-to paint. I have used both. I have erased with the Wicked colors without issue, but this paint is formulated, the Wicked colors is formulated to dry harder, quicker than the illustration colors. So that's, I think, the major difference between the paints. The paints come in every color and that you could possibly imagine. The illustration colors come in a variety of different sets. It doesn't only come in this color wheel set. This color wheel set actually is hard to come by right now. I looked online and I can't even put a link for it down below because it's just not available. I've looked at several sites. I can't find it available. So I don't know if it's discontinued or it's just a shortage of it right now. But as of this recording, this is hard to come by. So I'm not even gonna be able to list a link for it down below. But they have plenty other sets out there. Go check them out. I mean, they got Bloodline. They have a whole bunch of different sets. And you can buy individual colors, okay? Now, all of these are of the 2-ounce variety, and that's where I like to buy the paints because they last me a long time, even at the 2-ounce variety, because you're only using a couple drops, but they are available in 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 4, 8, 16, and on up. Okay, so it's very convenient, so it fits whatever project that you're doing. So these paints can be sprayed through any airbrush, any needle size. You can thin them down. The go-to thinner for it is the 4011. That would be for Createx's paint across the board, basically, for the most part, when you're dealing with the illustration, the Wicked, and the Candy2os. So 4011 is going to be your go-to reducer. We're not going to be talking about reducers in this video, but that would be, I just want to let you know that all of these paints can be thinned down, so you can spray these through any tip size. The recommended thinning is to start at 10%. I find myself thinning this a little bit more than 10%. Like when I'm spraying through my Iwata Eclipse, it's a 0.35. If I'm going through my Plus 0.3, I might jack it up a little bit, maybe 20%. If I'm getting down to something like my Infinity where it's a 0.18, I'm probably reducing almost 50%. So, I know what the spec sheet says, it talks about 10, 20%. I've already broke it down as much as 50% or even 1-to-1. So it really depends on what you're spraying it through, but they can be sprayed through any airbrush. So now I talked about drying times. Your drying times are really going to matter on humidity. Let's face it, I'm in a garage. It gets hot and humid in here, so my dry times are going to be a little longer on those days, rather on a fall day. So again, just like any other paint, these paints are really going to be governed by your conditions that you're spraying in as far as dry times go. So the spec sheet says that the paint dries in 10 to 15 minutes. I find it's almost dry within a few, 30 seconds to a minute. Now, is it fully dry to the touch? Probably not, but it's pretty well, dry to where you can brush your hand across it on your surface and you're not gonna get paint on your hand. So they dry very quickly. The other thing, in addition to mixing these with the 4011, is you can mix it with the UV-LS clears. Any finish that the clear offers, you can mix with these. Now, I do also want to say that these paints dry to a matte finish, so you would need a clear coat on afterwards to, brighten or shine them up. The spec sheet still does say that you could use the 4030. I'm not a big fan of the 4030. I don't see any need for it when you got the UV-LS clears. The UV-LS clears to me are just far superior, less hassle, less finicky. I personally don't use the 4030 anymore since the UV-LS clears came out. Absolutely just love the UV-LS clears. You can mix those in with these paints to make it like a urethane paint. So you're basically taking your water-based paint and turning it into a water-based, urethane paint or a urethane paint. It increases flowability, it increases durability. It's just an all-around fantastic product. Again, not going over the UV-LS clears here today. Just want to let you know that you can mix those UV-LS clears along with this particular paint. As far as pot life goes, they really don't have a pot life as far as the spec sheet goes. If you do mix it with reducer, probably a few weeks. But I don't generally store paints that I already have mixed with reducer. But if you do have it mixed with reducer, you can get quite some time out of it, but you're not going to get as long as just having the paint on a shelf. I've already had some Createx paints in my box that I haven't used, pulled out after years, and painted with them, and they were just like I just took them out, just bought them that day. As far as the health and safety of it, check out the safety data sheets online. I'm not going to go over the safety of it. It's pretty common sense where you don't want to be breathing a lot of overspray. So if you're spraying in an area where you're getting a lot of overspray, or any overspray for that matter, you want to protect yourself. But I'm going to leave it up to you to check out the safety sheets on that. So as far as the Wicked colors go, it is an acrylic resin paint with light, fast pigments. It's great for interior applications, but it's also really great for hard surface exterior applications, as long as you put a top coat or a clear coat over it, such as the UV-LS clears or another quality clear coat over top of it. Wicked colors come in a variety of groups. They come in transparent colors, opaque colors, fluorescent colors, and pearl colors, and pearl flake colors, and a few varieties that I didn't even mention. As far as the application goes, it's the same application or mixing that I mix any of their other paints. Start with 10%, 4011, reduce on up depending on what needle you're going through. Again, the smaller the needle, the more reducer. Just like the illustration colors, you can add the UV-LS clear to the Wicked colors to make it an acrylic urethane paint, which makes it a very durable paint. Now, I know Createx talks about using the UV-LS clears for better flowability. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I don't use it for that purpose. I have used it. I didn't really notice all that much difference just because of the fact I find the flowability of these paints alone just fantastic. So as far as dry times go, pretty similar or just about the same as the illustration colors. They recommend 10 to 15 minutes, 20 to 40 minutes for taping. Again, I find these paints to be dry within minutes of hitting the surface. But again, that's just dry to, light touch. But the recommended is 10 to 15 minutes, 20 to 40 for taping. One thing to note, all the Createx paints across their boards, across all of their lines, are all compatible with each other. So mixing and matching paints, you should never have an issue. One thing I will say, if you're using these with any kind of solvent-based clears or paints, make sure that the solvent-based paint clear or vice versa is very, very cured. And then do a little test on the side. But these can be used with solvent-based clears and paints. One last fact about the Wicked colors, they did away with the auto air line and they came out with a whole new set of colors with the Wicked line. There's 64 new wicked colors or transparent colors. There's 12 wicked opaque colors, and the regular wicked colors, there's 15 new colors. These all replace the former Auto Air series or line of paint. All right, last one we're going to be going over today is the Candy2o Complete Set. Okay, again, these are available in individual bottles, all different sizes. This just happens to be their complete set. It comes with, which is really cool, I like, is the 40-40 bleed checker, and I'll explain that in a minute. It does come with the 40-30. As I said, I don't use the 40-30. I like the UVLS clears. That is what I would recommend using with the Candy2o set. These are a water-based aniline dye. So true candies are a dye. So you can't just spray the dye and expect it to react like a paint. It needs an additive. This is where you're going to add the UVLS clear and a little bit of the 4011. And then it turns your candy dye into a candy paint. Okay. Then the 40-40 bleed checker comes in real handy, because what happens is that when you spray a candy, okay, you have to lock it down. So you either got to put an inner coat clear or a clear coat over it before you put another candy color over it, or it will bleed through. Well, Createx came out with the 40-40 bleed checker, so it saved you from clearing over every single, coat of, a good example is when you're doing True Fire. And you're doing True Fire, you can't just take candies and apply another candy over top. It reactivates the candy and will bleed through. So what this, or if you go to put one of these other Createx paints on top of that candy also, it will bleed through. So the bleed checker stops that from happening. So great product that they came out with. Just wanted to mention that. That is crucial, I think, with using the Candy2os. Now, as I said, it's a water-based aniline dye, okay, that you need that UVLS clear to make it into an acrylic paint or an acrylic candy. So basically what I just said, the way it reads in the spec sheet is slightly different. It is, when you add the UVLS clear, it achieves a stable candy color with resin for adhesion and coating formation. Again, changing it into an acrylic paint. All right, so the mixing ratios on these, you really got to pay attention to them, because when you're going with an airbrush, it's only 10% of the UVLS clear to the Candy2o, and then approximately 10% of the 4011 if you so need it. A lot of times you don't even need it, because again, these are very thin to begin with. It will thicken up a little bit when you put the, or actually, a lot compared to how thin this is, when you put the UVLS in. So if you need a little bit of reducer, you add a little bit of 4011 or 10%. So now the big difference is when you go to a spray gun and you're going to be mixing a higher volume of this stuff, is you're going to be mixing 6-to-1. That's 6 parts of the UVLS clear to 1 part of the Candy2o. And again, 10 to 20% of reducer. And the data sheet actually says 5 to 10%, but still I usually probably push it to 10 to 20%. But again, thinning is optional and not required. As far as tip size, airbrush, any tip size, you're just going to have to thin it down, need be to get where you want to be. You don't generally spray, candies through, very fine tips. So because you're looking more for a broader coverage. So I would say 3.5 on up is where I would be spraying with an airbrush. 0.5 works out really well as far as airbrushes go, but I've already sprayed it with my Eclipse, small areas. The other thing I do want to point out, when you're dealing with Candy2os or you're spraying with Candy2os, you don't want to go too heavy too fast. You want to put this on in nice light layers and build it up slowly. It's not uncommon for me to be putting 5, 6, 7 coats of candy on, but what you have to understand is it is a dye, so it's very transparent, but the more you put on, the deeper, darker it's going to get of that color. 3 coat times are generally 10 to 15 minutes as per the spec sheet, and that's about generally what I give it to. So as far as the bleed checker goes, just to touch upon that for one last thing, you have to understand when you're dealing with candies, you're going to have to take your time. So, once you got your 10 to 15 minutes dry time, if you're going to lock it down with the bleed checker, you're going to put a coat on, you're going to wait 10 to 15 minutes again, and then you're going to put another coat on. So, you're looking at probably a half an hour to 45 minutes between locking that all down, maybe even an hour. So sometimes, you just got to be patient with your project. But if you really want a superior finish with your candies, it just, you know, you got to take your time. As far as tape time, 60 minutes minimum after you're done spraying, depending on, again, your humidity and your conditions as far as dry time goes. If I'm in a hot, humid condition, I'm gonna probably let it go several hours. You know, 60 minutes in ideal conditions, but if you're not in ideal conditions, you're gonna want that, come back the next day and tape it. It's not worth ruining your project over. Well, there you have it. Createx paint, my go-to paint for over 20 years. I know there's a lot of other brand of paints out there, a lot of great, airbrush paints, but Createx, in my opinion, happens to be one of the best. I've just been using it for over 20 years and I absolutely love it. Indoors, outdoors, it doesn't matter. There's plenty of other applications and different lines of Createx that I didn't even touch on here today, from textiles to t-shirts, you name it. If you want to airbrush with it, they have it. It's a great paint from all the way from learning to being a professional airbrush artist. So with that, I hope you like this type of content. I hope you found some value in it. If you did, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell so you get future notifications. Some comments, good or bad. Check out those Amazon affiliate links down below for all the products I use in this video and the other videos. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.